Once upon a time, a devastating famine struck a quiet African village called Doga. The villagers, known for their vibrant harvest festivals, now faced hunger and despair. No rain fell, the crops withered, and the rivers that served the villagers for years ran dry. The animals that once roamed the forest freely had either fled or perished. Among the villagers was Kofi, a skilled hunter known for his courage and kindness. He had grown up in the village and loved its people deeply. Despite his efforts to hunt in the forest every day, he returned empty-handed. The famine had made the animals scarce. All the hunters in the village of Doga were deeply worried about this situation. The king of Doga sat on his carved wooden throne, his face etched with worry as he addressed the council, saying, "My people are starving, and the gods seem deaf to our prayers. Our barns are empty. The crops we preserved for next year are all gone, and even the strongest among us grow weaker with each passing day," he lamented, his voice heavy with despair. One elder spoke cautiously, "Perhaps we have angered the spirits of the forest, Your Majesty. Should we send an offering?" The king shook his head and replied, "We cannot offer what we do not have. We must find another way before the village is lost." Turning to his advisors, he commanded, "Spread the word. Let every hunter and farmer redouble their efforts, and maybe God will grant us favor." Children cried and stared at empty pots, hoping to find even the tiniest scrap of food to feed their starving families. Farmers gazed at the sky, praying for rain, but it remained an unyielding expanse of blue. Birds no longer sang in the mornings. They had either flown away or fallen from the skies. The village market, once bustling with activity, was silent, with empty stalls and desperate faces. Once proud hunters returned home empty-handed, their bows slung over their shoulders in defeat. Stories of neighboring villages suffering the same fate only deepened the hopelessness of Doga village. Kofi woke up one morning to find some of their neighbors' huts empty. They moved out in search of better fortune, leaving homes and memories behind. Kofi was a skilled hunter, the eldest son in a family of 5, and the primary provider for his aging parents, his younger brother, and his sister. His family lived in a small mud house with a thatched roof, surrounded by a garden that once flourished with yams and vegetables but now lay barren due to the famine. Each morning, Kofi ventured deep into the forest with his bow and quiver, determined to bring back game, but more often than not, he returned empty-handed. His mother, Oma, spent her days trying to stretch the few remaining grains of millet, weaving them into watery porridge that barely satisfied their hunger. Kofi's younger siblings, Kwame and Efua, were too weak to help in the fields, their dreams of schooling fading under the weight of survival. Despite their struggles, the family clung to hope, praying together each night by the light of a flickering oil lamp, believing that their perseverance would be rewarded. Kofi often told stories of better days to lift their spirits, recounting times when the forest teemed with life and the village celebrated harvest festivals. One day, as Kofi slung his bow over his shoulder and set off for the forest, hunger gnawed at his stomach, but he pushed on, determined to find a game to feed his family. On his way to the forest, he passed the house of Bodu, a man infamous for his large family. He heard the unmistakable sound of shouting and screaming, children crying, women shouting, and the clatter of a clay pot hitting the ground. Curiosity got the better of him, and Kofi slowed his steps, peering into the open courtyard. There, in the dusty compound, was Bodu standing helplessly amidst his 5 wives and 30 children, all of them fighting over a single, tiny bowl of corn porridge. The children, many of them thin and frail, pushed and shoved each other, their small hands reaching desperately for even a spoonful. The wives, each clutching their own toddlers, argued over whose children deserved the most. "This is madness," Bodu finally roared, his voice breaking with frustration. "How can one bowl feed so many mouths?" But his protest only added to the chaos, as the children ignored him and continued to squabble. Kofi's heart sank at the sight. He saw a young girl, barely 5, clutching the edge of the bowl, tears streaking her dusty cheeks as an older boy snatched it away. Another child, a toddler, stumbled and fell, crying loudly, his cries drowned out by the shouting around him. Kofi carefully approached him and called out, "Bodu, what is happening here?" Bodu turned to him, his face lined with exhaustion and despair. "What do you think, Kofi?" The famine has turned us into animals. This is all the food we have left. 30 children and 5 wives, and I have nothing more to give them." Kofi nodded, his chest tightening with pity. "I will do what I can," he promised. "Let me try the forest again today. Perhaps I will be lucky today." Kofi walked away, heading towards the forest. This famine was getting out of hand, and he wondered to himself. The sight of the struggling family reminded him of his own family, the urgency of his mission. The forest held their only hope, and he vowed not to return empty-handed, not for his family, nor for Bodiu's desperate household. Kofi ventured deeper and deeper into the forest than ever before. The thought of Bodiu's family crowded his mind, and he stumbled upon a clearing he had never seen. At its center stood a magnificent tree with golden leaves. "What kind of a tree is this?" As he marveled at its beauty, he heard a soft, melodious voice behind him. "Are you lost, hunter?" Startled, Kofi turned around to see a woman of extraordinary beauty looking at him curiously. Her skin glowed like sunlight, her hair braided to her back, and her eyes sparkled with an emerald hue. She wore a dress woven from vines and flowers, and her appearance was different, something from a different world. "My name is Abeni," she said to him, smiling warmly. "You look troubled. What brings you so deep into the forest?" Kofi explained the famine and the suffering of his village. He confessed his desperation to find food and help his people. Abeni listened intently and said, "I can help your village, but you must trust me. In return, promise to take me to your home and care for me as your wife. As long as you take care of me, I will take care of your people." Kofi was confused by what the strange lady said. He doesn't know her, her people, or the village she comes from. He has never thought of looking for a wife. His focus has been on finding food for his family to survive dying of starvation. He could feel the stare of the stranger on him as he pondered in his heart. Will it be appropriate for him to go home with this stranger and introduce him to his family as his wife in this famine period? An extra mouth to feed. Then Kofi asked her, "You said if I take care of you, you will take care of my family. How do you want to take care of my family when there is no food in the village for my family to eat?" Abeni looked at him and said, "Trust me when I say I will take care of your family and the whole village. I saw you when you passed by Bodiu's house, and what you saw prompted you to search for food for his family." Kofi later agreed to marry the stranger, believing she might be a divine gift to save his village. When they returned to the village, Abeni amazed everyone by immediately calling for the largest pot available. She placed a single golden leaf from her dress into the pot, and it transformed into a bountiful pot of stew that fed the entire village. Word spread quickly of the beautiful stranger who had saved them, and Abeni was celebrated as a blessing by the villagers. Over the following days, Abeni continued to perform miracles. She touched barren fields, and they sprouted crops overnight. She sang to the dry riverbed, and fresh water flowed again. The village thrived, and Abeni became beloved by all, but not everyone trusted her. Nana Ya, the village elder and seer, noticed strange things about Abeni. The ground where she stepped sometimes sprouted tiny flowers, which no one in the village saw except Nana, and Abeni never ate or drank like the others. Nana kept watching Abeni for weeks. Each time she walked past, Nana would run out and pick some of the flowers on her footprint into a basket, cover it and put it under her bed. No one else in the village saw Th. One day she approached Kofi, warning him about Abeni. "You must watch her carefully, my son. She is not of this world. Her gifts come with a price," the elder warned. Then she touched his eyes and said, "As from now on, your eyes shall be opened to see what I see," said Nana. Kofi, blinded by love, dismissed the elder's words. He adored Abeni, who had become not only his wife but also the savior of his village. One night, Kofi woke up to find Abeni missing from their bed. Concerned, he followed the flower-glowing footprints into the forest. To his horror, he discovered her standing in the clearing where they had first met, merging into the golden tree. Her body seemed to dissolve, and her dress turned into leaves and reattached themselves to the branches. Shaken, Kofi ran back home, confused and furious about what he just witnessed. The next morning, he confronted her and Abeni admitted the truth. She was not human but the spirit of the golden tree. I fell in love with your kind heart, Kofi, she explained, tears streaming down her face. I took human form to help you, but I cannot stay away from the tree for too long, or I will wither and die. Despite the revelation and confession, Kofi still loved her deeply. But Nana Ya's warning echoed in his mind. When the villagers learned the truth, fear and greed consumed them. They believed that cutting down the golden tree would ensure their prosperity forever. Ignoring Kofi's pleas and Abeni's cries, they sharpened their axes and marched into the forest. As the first axe struck the tree, Abeni screamed in agony and collapsed. Golden leaves fell like rain, and the once vibrant tree began to wilt. Kofi fought the villagers, but they overpowered him. Realizing her end was near, Abeni whispered her final words to Kofi, "Bury me beneath the tree. My spirit will protect the land forever." Kofi cried, accusing the villagers of destroying his life. After Abeni's death, the village experienced a terrible storm. Lightning struck the golden tree, and it crumbled into ash. But from the ashes, a large grove of golden fruit trees sprang forth overnight. The fruits never withered and could feed the village for generations. The villagers, ashamed of their actions, honored Abeni's memory by tending to the grove and learning to live in harmony with nature. Kofi, heartbroken but grateful for her sacrifice, spent the rest of his days protecting the forest. To this day, the grove is said to still exist, hidden deep in the forest. The villagers passed down the tale of Abeni, the tree spirit who fell in love with a hunter and saved the village from famine, teaching them the importance of love, sacrifice, and respect for the natural world. Lesson learned. Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and to the Lord what is the Lord's.